All right, welcome to our first chain rule example. And we have a little harmless looking function here, and we're going to do f prime of x. And you cannot escape the chain rule sometimes. And this can go bad fast if you approach this the wrong way. So here's how we're going to look at this problem. I'm going to write this a little bit bigger than that because that's kind of small. So 2 over 3. And then in parentheses, because I have a square root of a quantity, I'm going to write that quantity as, instead of with the square root symbol, with the 1/2 exponent power, because that's the same thing as the square root. And from there, I'm going to manipulate this a little bit more. So now this is going to turn into 2. So here's my line for what's on top and what's on the bottom. 2 is on top, the 3 is on the bottom, but I'm going to take this and put it on the top. So I'm going to have 2x minus 1 to the negative 1/2 power. So that's going to be my first step. And then I'm going to get smart about this and look at this problem as 2/3 basically multiplying this. I mean, that's true. If I write this as 2x over 3, just on the side here, I can rewrite this as 2/3 x. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2/3 2x minus 1 to the negative 1/2 power. And from there, I'm going to do the chain rule on it. Now, when I do that, I'm going to take this exponent, and I'm going to bring it out here and multiply it by whatever's in front. Now, a lot of times there's just a 1 here, but in this case there's a 2/3 here. So this is going to turn into negative 1/2 times 2/3, like that, and then 2x minus 1, and I'm going to have to subtract 1 off that. So I'm going to have negative 1/2 minus 2/2, which is negative 3/2. All right. Now, the chain rule says take the derivative of the outside and multiply it by the derivative of the inside. So I got to take the derivative of that right there, which is times 2, because the derivative of 2x would be 2, and the derivative of negative 1, of course, 0. So it's 2 plus 0, or just 2. All right, now let's simplify some fractions here. So this is going to turn in, those are going to cancel right there. And I'm going to have negative 1/3 times 2x minus 1 to the negative 3/2 power times 2. And then I can turn that, I probably could have done all that in one step there, but this 2 is now like 2 over 1. And I can do 2 over 1 times 1/3 negative and get negative 2/3 and then 2x minus 1 to the negative 3/2 power. We're almost finished with this, believe it or not, because you got to think, we're going to kind of reassemble this thing back in this form. So if you're ever wondering how far do I simplify or whatever, usually you try to get it back to the form of what the question asks you. Okay, so if it has a radical on the bottom for the question, it's okay to have a radical on the bottom for the answer. So that's really the guidelines you want to use for that. And this is a negative exponent, so that thing needs taken back down to the denominator spot. And so we're going to write this as, I'm going to start over here so I got a little bit more room. Negative 2, let me extend that just a little bit. There we go. And on the bottom, I'm going to have 2x minus 1 to the positive 3/2. Well, this is kind of ugly because we could write this as negative 2 over 3. And then when you write, remember, when you write fractional exponents back in radical form, the denominator goes here. So that's like 2. It's like the square root. And then this would be 2x minus 1 cubed. So there's actually an invisible 2 here. But we don't ever we don't ever write that on square roots. But all square roots, I mean, just to refresh, x to the 1/2 is the square root of 2 or x, but it's actually 1, 2, like that. So believe it or not, that's there all the time, but those are like invisible to us, the 1 and the 2. Okay? So this would be an acceptable answer. Now, there are some alternatives to how to simplify this a little further, because this is 2x minus 1 3 times, so you could pull out and make this, so I'll write optional fun here. If you had -2, and then you could say 3, pull out 2 of these to make a real one, okay, because there are 3 of them under there. 2x minus 1, 2x minus 1, 2x minus 1. A pair of them come out front, and under would be just 2x minus 1. I mean, that would be a completely legal thing to do, and then you could make this 6, you could make this, I'll just write it because I am literally out of space. Right here, you could make that 6x minus 3 right there. So it'd be -2 over 6x minus 3, in parentheses, times that. All right, and that's a little intro to the chain rule right there. Have a good one.